As I've argued numerous times before in the past on the minimum wage law increase, it is damaging to the economy because you cannot ignore the laws of supply and demand. That is to say that when you raise the price of something, demand falls, and when you lower the price of something, demand drives up. You saw this in Black Friday, because when the sales come around, consumer demand drives up and people rush out to get the stuff. And when Black Friday ends, the consumer demand falls. The same thing with the interest rates. When you raise the interest rates, you see people saving more. When you see the interest rates drop, then of course people are spending more. Well, again, it's the very same thing with the minimum wage, because the wage of the employee is the price to the employer. So when you raise the price of the lower skilled worker, and let's use the United States of America for example, where in Seattle or New York or several other states like Illinois raise this minimum wage to, let's say, $15, then of course what it means is that the demand from the employer falls. Now, an employer must ensure that the value of what they're getting is greater than the cost. Is the value there of $15 for flipping £5 or $5 burgers in the likes of KFC, McDonald's, or even, Burger King, for example? What an employer could do is one of three things, or maybe several of the things, in order to compensate paying for this raised minimum wage. They could reduce the working hours so that there's less full-time work and more part-time work. They could pay off the remaining lower skilled workers and maybe even replace them with automation, because it would be cheaper in the long run for them to do so. They may even raise the costs of their goods and services, which is typically what you end up seeing. And there was an argument by Nicola Sturgeon of the SNP, Scotland's First Minister, who openly stated this, that she would readjust inflation in order to match the raised minimum wage. In simple English terminology, it simply means you're wasting your time. What's the point raising the minimum wage if all you've done is raised their cost of goods and services and raised basically their cost of living? All you've done is you've made it harder, you've raised the bar and made it harder for young people to get into the job market. Who is it that gets affected by the minimum wage law? Well, it happens to be the very lower skilled workers who do not have the experience and need the valuable experience to get into the job market, who may have just left school and are looking to get into, working in lower skilled jobs. What if you were to go into a clothing store and you find clothes that you really like and you find an item that you really love? However, you then look at the price of the item and you discover that the price far exceeds what its actual value is, and it has an $800 or £800 price tag to it. Your demand immediately falls. Your heart sinks. You feel disgusted. You feel, abused because this was an item that you really loved. This was something that you really wanted, and then you look at the price tag and you feel sick. As soon as you see that price tag, your demand falls. This is simple as that. So this is the reason why the minimum wage law is deeply and inherently flawed, and it has failed numerous times over. Now, I touched upon an argument before in the past, and one thing that I did not address that I should have, as I stated, Denmark has a real unemployment figure 3 times higher than official figures. What is it between official figures and real figures? What's the difference? Official figures is looking at recent unemployment. That means to say people who have been recently made redundant and were recently in employment for the past year or so. It does not include people who have been long-term unemployed. That's the issue with official figures. It does not address or account for people who have been long-term unemployed. You could, of course, counter in the very fact that the higher tax rates is crippling people and destroying their incentives to want to work. I mean, who would want to work only to pay out most of their tax to that of government, etc., and sales taxes and all the rest of it? I mean, I think in Denmark they're paying more than 80% in taxes. So this argument that people come out and say, well, at the end of the day, we should just readjust inflation to match it, and somehow these economies are doing better off. No, they aren't. The solution to the problem, I would say, is to do so through the market. That's how you raise wages, through increasing the purchasing power of your monetary value, and of course through trade, making countries more dependent upon your city or country and trade, and that's how you improve people's wages over time. So anyway, folk, if you've got any other questions that you would like to ask me, comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, and of course, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you for watching, and I shall talk to you later. Cheers.